Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Penalty Loop Podcast, a podcast about biathlon by Jordan Gottschalk from Penalty Loop and a regular guest, RJ Weiss from Biathlon Analytics.
Hey, RJ. We are recording, and it is a week away from biathlon. Is it even a week? I think it's 6 days until we will have seen World Cup biathlon.
Yeah, that's November 30th. They start on Saturday, hey? I thought they maybe started on Friday. But
the mixed relays, if you consider the mixed relays to be real events, then we are 6 days away.
That's a good start. What's that supposed to mean?
No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I'm being silly.
And then the Sunday, the relays. Who cares? Yeah. So it really starts on Tuesday.
Really starts on Tuesday.
Well, that's a short individual. Nah, we don't. The sprint, December 6th. How's that?
December 6th. All right, so we still got a little ways to go.
Yeah, we got more than a week still.
Yeah. Actually, I really like. I like the way they do it now with the mixed relays, sort of as like an appetizer for the season. You get a taste of it.
They're fun to watch.
And yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is you get a taste of it. It's fun to watch, and it really makes you excited for everything that comes next. Yeah, so I'm excited. I mean, I'm
but the first thing that pops in my head, though, is that I mean, sucks to be them, you could say, but the fact that a lot of smaller nations can't participate, and I won't go into a long dialogue about if there's solutions, because there are, IBU, if you're listening. But that's unfortunate that there's a number of nations we won't see until the short individual on Tuesday. But
that's true. Yeah. I mean, we might see them in the single mixed, but
true. Yeah. We should be able to. We, as in Team Canada, should be able to put a team together for that at least.
So I want to come back to this later because most nations have announced their World Cup rosters for at least the first few weeks. Mm-hmm. And I think that the way in which Canada announces their rosters is unnecessarily confusing, but I definitely want to come back to that. We have actually had some biathlon. I don't know, were you able to watch any of the selection events that took place last week?
No, I've seen a few highlights here and there, but I think I tried twice to watch a race and got interrupted and just never got anywhere. So I got most information from you.
Yeah, well, I did my best. I tried hard.
Yeah.
I watched Saturday on an airplane. We were flying up to fly and so I watched with a baby and a child in one arm. I guess she's 18 months now, so I can't call her baby, but my phone in one arm and then I had toys and things in the other hand. So I was definitely watching with one eye on Saturday as I was moving back and forth between the races in Sweden and Norway. But I was able to give a little bit more time on Sunday. And nice. My general impression is I'm really excited that biathlon is back. You know how much you miss it, right? But then you see it and you hear it, and you're like, you know what, this feels good. I'm happy that this is back in my life. And
talking about being back in my life. Please tell me that our English commentator friends are back in our lives. For the upcoming season.
I didn't see that. I wasn't. I'll be honest. I was not listening on the airplane, and then when I was when we got where we were going, I also was not listening. So, I don't know. I'll live in that. I had it on mute, so I all the commentary was in my head.
I will say it would feel weird if they were not there.
It would. I want to emphasize this now because we'll make fun of them throughout the season. But they are really knowledgeable about the sport of biathlon.
Oh, absolutely.
Just that sometimes the things that they say are...
and let's be honest here. Like if you and I would do the commentary, we would be like 1,000 times worse. So I do have a lot of respect for what they do. But yeah, sometimes
we would be
when they say the fastest way through a corner is straight.
Yeah, that's still
that was the highlight of it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure he was just distracted with something else.
Yeah. Anyway. Anyway, well, I was going to say that's the last we'll say about that, but it's not, because we'll just when we convene next weekend, I'm sure we'll have more things to say. So I didn't know if you wanted to start by just running through the events just a little bit. I know you didn't watch it very much, but I took copious notes, so we can kind of just really quickly just mention that. So there were two different main races that you could watch. There were the races in Sweden and the races in Norway. In Sweden, there were athletes, obviously, from Sweden that were there, but also there were Estonian athletes, there were Ukrainian athletes, and like Biba was there as well. So a handful of others. And then in Norway, of course, the Norwegians, the French men were there, the Italian men plus Doro were there, and then the Polish athletes were there as well. And then Lotte Lee was there.
Don't forget Greenland.
Greenland, yep. Lotte Lee was there, and Nuklek was there as well. Lotte Lee, of course, has a little bit of a... She's Belgian, but of course Norwegian as well.
Yeah,
so
a link. Do you know?
So she has a.
I noticed that there was something on about both Bjørndalen and Tyrrell Eckhoff in Greenland.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't see anything about that.
I for some reason saw a video on Instagram or something.
Interesting. I wonder what they were doing up there.
I don't know if that was through the IBU or if they were just on vacation or who knows, but it seemed like it was something from the IBU that they were there to maybe help grow the sport there. Or
yeah, interesting. So
you can't expect the Slettemark family to do everything there, right?
Well, actually, my first thought was, did the Slettemark family, do they really want them there? Because they have a
monopoly on what happened.
Monopoly on, yeah. And then there was a race in Finland that's very hush hush. We only know a couple of things about it, but the Czech athletes were there, the German athletes were there, the United States athletes were there, and the Japanese athletes. And then there was at least two other races. I think the French women were racing in France, the Swiss athletes were in Lenzerheide, and then the Italian women were convened. I don't remember which venue in Italy, but of course Doro was not there because she was in Norway, and Lisa Vitozzi did not race this past weekend, and this is the first big news item I wanted to hit. She did not race this weekend because she has been nursing a back injury for the last few weeks that has taken her out of her training regimen, and she's actually not going to race in Kontiolahti, which is kind of a big it's a big blow. Mm-hmm. So I guess my first question for you is, I don't know if you've ever had any back injuries, but how much do you think this is going to affect her going forward? Do we have any idea about that? And even missing a week of competition, can she get herself back into the overall race?
Well, I think she can, but I think the downside is that you become dependent on others. Like whoever, let's say Tandervold wins 2 out of 3 in the first weekend, then that means that Tandervold is going to have a bad weekend, and Lisa needs to perform in that same weekend to sort of catch up, because it's a bit of a disadvantage that there's 3 events that score point for the globe, right?
That's true. Yep.
So it could. About back injury, I have no idea what is it. If it's like something more severe that could linger all season, or if it's just, sprained a muscle and maybe a little bit of vapor rub or whatever you put on Tiger Balm for a week and it's over, and maybe they're just playing. My thinking from what I read about it is that it's more like a precautionary that she's not starting. So that makes me think that it's probably okay, but rather than having pain the whole season, maybe she just wants to give it more rest and, and then come back strong. And, at the same time, it could be an advantage if there's a close race at the end that she has 1 week less of races and has more energy left. But, I mean, that's,
Well, and we saw a different issue, obviously. Lou Jean Monod got sick and missed a weekend last year, and she dang near won the whole thing. So yeah. So I think that.
But I mean, I think the best thing that can happen for Lisa is if different people win and that the results are all over the place, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that the big advantage that Lou had last year was that there were like 5 different women who at one point looked like they were going to win the overall, and so they were kind of divvying up all the wins. If Elvira comes out and just starts sweeping up victories in the first trimester, that could be obviously that's big trouble for everybody, but that makes it real difficult to get back into it.
Well, on that note, that's somebody I wouldn't worry about too much. Although I really, really hope that she will have her breakout year, but it's almost every year that the Swedes come out flying, and then you start thinking, well, maybe this is the year,
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll get into that more. But
well, do you want to jump into the Swedish races? We can go right into that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So over in Sweden, they had I mentioned the Swedish women were there, the Estonians, Ukrainian women, and then Biba was there. Those are the big players. And the short individual started things off. Your favorite, Anna Magnusson. She won the short individual and looked pretty spectacular. I'll be honest. That was very good racing. Elvira was in second. Johanna Skottheim was in third. Ella Halverson in fourth, and then Biba was in fifth. So pretty excellent racing there by Biba, and she had a number of misses too. So I mean, it wasn't like she had a day where she hit 18 out of 20. I think she had 5 misses, but still raced very well on the skis. I think Tomingus was 9th. Regina Ermetz was in 10th. They looked okay as well. So yeah, overall, I mean, Swedes performed very well. I think I was most impressed by Magnusson. Obviously, she won, but she looked just tremendous.
And sorry, did you say how much skiing. She missed? Yeah. Okay.
I think she was 19 out of 20.
That helps.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Short individual, by the way, also, I mean, if everybody remembers, it's a shorter distance than the individual and then a 45-second penalty instead of the full minute.
Right.
And then for the women's sprint, Elvira won with 2 misses. Anna Karen Heidenberg was in second. We are definitely going to talk about her later. Ella Halverson had a great weekend. She was in third. Kristina Dmitrenko from Ukraine was in fourth. Biba was again in fifth. Anna Magnusson was in sixth. But the only reason I've gone down this far is because Johanna Talaharm came in seventh.
Yay!
It's pretty nice race there. Last year was not the greatest. I think she had to battle some injuries and made her way back to the World Cup at the very end of the year. But that was a very good start for her. And hopefully that's a sign of good things to come.
Mm-hmm.
On the men's side, nothing too exciting except Vitaly Manzin, Ukrainian youngster, won the short individual. Pretty neat. Samuelson was in fifth, and Martin Ponsaloma was in eighth in that race.
Did he have really good shooting, the Manson?
Yes, yeah, 20 out of 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the sprints, Samuelson won. Jesper Nellen was in second. Ponsaloma was in fourth. Yeah, it's kind of about how you would expect it to go, I think. Ponsaloma still was reasonably fast, just wasn't hitting. And I think that's just kind of the way he's going to be.
And do you think they're holding back at these kinds of events, or do you think they're going full out to see where they're at? Or
that's an excellent question. I meant to mention this right away off the top, but my first impression was I was just happy that biathlon was back. My second impression was I wonder how, for some of these athletes, you the ones who are absolutely assured of, you are going to be there in Kontiolahti, like, are you using it just as like, hey, I want to just go through it? Or are you going all out to see where you are? I have no way of knowing, because we'll talk about the Norwegian races, but you had Johannes Tingnesbo, in 17th in the mass start, and that I don't believe is a accurate representation of where he is right now. If it is, and he comes out in Kontiolahti and finishes, regularly.
Who knows what Tarje did to him this time? Huh?
This is true. I don't know where we were talking about this offline, but you were mentioning Tarje broke him last year before the season.
Look up Extra Runde, the podcast, the German podcast. I haven't listened to it. I'm going to listen to it tomorrow on my way to Canmore. But typically he does interviews with non-German speakers in English, so it should be available to listen to people that listen to us in English. And he's interviewing JT Bow, and one great story was about last year, where apparently a sponsor event just before the start of the season, they just for fun, him and Tarjei started doing an arm wrestling competition, and he Johannes Dinges 2 days later felt a bit of a sore arm. And apparently it set him back a little bit. But like I said, I haven't listened to the whole thing yet. But yeah, definitely most of their episodes are in German, but interviews with guys like this are typically in English, so definitely worth a listen if you haven't yet.
I was just thinking about this. In Tarjei, he ends up in second place in the overall last year.
I know. Yeah. So I was thinking, what can he do this year to?
Oh man, that's I'll have to take a listen because I gotta hear the story. In the Norwegian races, I don't want to go line by line like I just did because I think that's boring for everybody. But for the women, Tangervold won both races, and she's coming off of a sort of a weird off season. She's had a couple of different injuries, most recently a wrist issue this fall. She had a hip issue as well, I believe, and then she got married in June. Not that that's weird, that's amazing, that's wonderful. But just think about like distractions, things that could maybe throw you off. So I was actually expecting her to come in a little bit slower this season, but coming in, all you can do is win the two races. I think she won the mass start by a ski tip over Maren Shakaidi, but
you know what? I still think that first year that Sturla Holmlegreid was in the World Cup and he almost won.
Yeah, that
was the same year that he was for a while at least dating an American athlete. And I still, a bit older. It's been a while, but when you're in love, that new love, you have more energy. Nothing hurts when you're exercising or
Yeah, exactly.
So who knows? Maybe. And when did Tarjei get married? That was this summer.
Was that September?
Or was it last summer?
No, it was this summer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His son was born last.
He didn't have a great.
Year.
Maybe that was it then. That he had a great season because of that.
Yeah.
So now I'm married, so has another season.
And who knows what he's going to do next year for another kid. Got to keep it going.
Good thing that
get a dog. Anyway, so also on the women's side, I'm going to probably mispronounce this. How do you pronounce GRO in Norwegian?
Gro?
Yeah, that was going to be my guess as well. Ranby? She finished third in the sprint, and she finished 23rd in the mass start, so not as good, but third in the sprint. And she is young, like 21, and she has made her way to the World Cup team. So it's kind of neat. Nice to see that. I do think it's interesting from the women's races, the women's elite team. So that training group, which was Tangervold and Noten and Arne and Idelien and Maren Shakaidi. I know we were told how to pronounce it. I'll have to go back and look it up. They just didn't look great skiing. Tangervold, like I said, I expected her to come in a little bit off because of the injuries. She still won both races, but the rest of them just didn't look great. And so I don't know if that's intentional, if that's like what we were talking about. They weren't racing it the same way, but at least in the case of Idelien, it did end up with her missing the World Cup roster to start. She's on the IBU Cup. So I'm just curious about that, just marking it, and we'll see how they look when the season gets underway.
Well, it's funny because, considering that Reuseland and Eckhoff retired not that long ago, you would think that it's relatively easier to make the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're still fighting for any available spot, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also in those women's races, Doro, I think we mentioned that she was out there. Didn't look amazing in the sprint, but she was 15th. But in the mass start, she was in 3rd. So there she is, just warming her way.
I'm happy for her that she found a way that it works.
Yeah.
But I always laugh when, you see all these athletes training really hard in preparation for the season, and then you see Doro and she's having a glass of wine with two guys in a new restaurant, and then she's sitting in some hot tub, drinking a glass of wine. And I'm sure it's like non-alcoholic, healthy wine or whatever it is, but it's just very different approach.
The greatest thing.
And like I said, if it works for her, it works for her, but it's just quite the difference in...
it's so different.
Yeah.
The Polish women were there as well. Jack Yella was in 6th in the mass start, and Zook was in 7th. I think they had it was decent. Chatted briefly with Tobias. Chatted is a strong way of saying it. I mentioned him on Twitter and he responded back. Basically, he said that it wasn't the greatest races, but they're some good things that they're taking away from them. So hopefully that's a sign that they're going to come in and do some good things right away.
Medals.
Exactly. And then on the men's side, just like Tangervold Christensen he won the sprint and then got 2nd in the mass start. So another good start for him. And he, interestingly enough, I didn't think had the greatest summer. So then to see, and by not having the greatest summer, I mean he didn't win Blink, which he had done like the previous 2 years in a row. But he came right out and looked very good. Surum looked excellent, I thought. Stromsheim looked pretty good as well. Perot, excellent. Jacquemel seemed pretty happy with his performances. So, but we mentioned already, the Bowboys just didn't seem like they were going 100%. Right. And maybe they were, I don't know, but just didn't seem like it.
What was the crowd like? Was it pretty busy?
Yeah.
Those events?
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. It was nice. Just,
like it looked pretty serious.
It wasn't like World Cup, but it was, there were people out there.
Well, in all fairness,
it's hard to get
probably busier than World Cup in North America. I mean, sorry to say it, but
no, you're right. Yeah, when I say it's not a World Cup, in my head I'm picturing Ruhpolding. Right, and so it's not that, but it's there are people out there. It was the time of day that they ran these races. It was later in the afternoon, and so you had the sunset, and so you had this. It wasn't dark by any means, but the snow in certain places had this almost like orange glow to it, which was really kind of interesting. Yeah, but
could also be the quality of the snow, but and I mean more like the stuff they put.
Yeah. No, but it was definitely like just where the sun was in the sky too. It kind of fit. And it had this weird experience of experience isn't the right word, this quality to it, because I was watching it without the sound on, and it's not the same broadcast. So the NRK was who I was watching it through for the Norwegian races, and so it's a different broadcast. So you get sort of different angles and like different production quality. And I felt like I was obviously watching biathlon, but I felt like I was watching like a different. It was like watching, like if you're used to watching like European soccer, and then suddenly you tune into like an MLS game. It's like the same sport, but it feels different in a way. You know what I mean? So it was like the crowd was a little bit different. Yeah, and the lighting was different, and just like the way it was shot was a little bit different. I was like, it kind of took me a minute to get to get my bearings on all that. But
it's side note, but I find it very interesting to watch the MLS because it's so funny how they're trying really, really hard to recreate the European stadium atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, just embrace that you do it differently. Just embrace that you can sit next to your opponent's fan and just be arm in arm and yell and shout and make fun of each other and just go out happy, because you won't see that in Holland or Europe in general, right? So just embrace that you have a different culture here. Like, don't try to emulate something that's never going to work, because, I mean, there's so many European fans that people are basically kicked out of like in Italy or whatever, if the whole family has always been for AC Milan and you're like, nah, I like Inter Milan. You're banished from the family. Like, I just read something the other, it's probably a couple of years ago. I read a book about this family so you have Celtic and Rangers in Glasgow, 2 clubs.
Yeah.
And Celtic is really connected to like the Catholic and the other to the Protestant. Anyway, this book was about this family with, I think he was from the Celtic religion and obviously supporting Celtic, but he fell in love with this girl from a Ranger family. And it wasn't why I actually liked it. It wasn't about their love and relationship and all that, but more the families where the dad was like, yeah, that's just not an option. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, bit of a side note, but I much prefer if people just embrace what they're good at rather than trying to simulate something that has its good things, but also has a lot of negative things. But
yeah. So having said that, I really liked the NRK broadcast.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it was just different. So you mentioned, what made me think about that was you mentioned, what were the crowds like, and I had to think back, because when you're not listening to it, sometimes you're not always thinking about the crowd. So I had to think about what it was like watching the broadcast, and that was just kind of my takeaway. Also, it was just a different venue, right? I'm used to seeing like Holmenkollen, or you see like Östersund, or you see like your normal World Cup venues, and this was a different one. This is a IBU Cup venue, right. So that was part of it as well. Just seeing somewhere that I don't normally look at.
Right.
And when you watch the same venues, like you sort of, like you see, certain areas on the track, and you're like, oh, well, it's this hill, so I sort of know where they are. Oh, it's this, this area. I kind of know where they are, and then you're watching on this new track, and I'm like, I don't know where anybody is. I don't, and they show like the little, like how, the checkpoints, and you're like, I have no idea how, sometimes you can look and be like, oh, the counter's clock, counting down. He's about 15 seconds away from the checkpoint. I think he'll be at about this time. Like, I don't know. The checkpoint could be, just around the,
were you watching live?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cause I didn't know that the NRK had it live outside of Norway. But maybe it's because it's the IBU Cup or preseason, or
nope, it was not. So Fondo Italia was able to provide a feed. I don't know how, but they had some sort of deal, and so it was on their site. And so if you went there, they had a link to it, and you could go watch it. So that's how I found it. Yeah, I think that's about it as far as the big races. Hanna Ackenthaler looked great in Italy. She won both test races out there, so that's really cool. Lena Heike-Gross, no surprise, won both races in Switzerland. Nick Hartweg won the sprint and then came in second in the pursuit, and Stalder came in second in the sprint and won the pursuit. But so no surprise, they were 1-2, I think, for the Swiss men there. But I was happy. I mean, Hartweg's had a really a tough go of it, the last 18 months or so. So it was nice to see him he's competing on that level. Yeah.
Is he fully recovered then? Is that fair to say now?
No. He is not.
Okay.
Well, I guess he is fully recovered, but I would say his training is not at the same level as he would.
Right.
He would. Yeah. So I think that's a better way of putting it.
Okay.
So I would imagine he is only going to get stronger, assuming that he is finally able to avoid misfortune for at least a month at a time. Because it seems like every time he turns around, he's got COVID or the flu, or he's gotten surgery on his shoulder. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. The other big piece of news we got, and this came from that same interview that you mentioned earlier, the Extra Runda interview, is that Johannes Tingnesbo confirmed that the end of the 2026 season will be the end of his career. And I know he has mentioned the 2026 Olympics as a finishing line of sorts for him, but just confirming it again as we get closer. I think that was kind of a big thing. Yeah, I guess not new news, but it's worthwhile to mention.
What are the odds for you that JT Bowe does not make the Olympic team?
The odds that he does, I think it's 100% chance that he makes the Olympic team. Because I think that even if he is not running at his best, that they will still take him in 2026.
So how many races outside of the top 10 this season, like assuming he's going to start Kontiolahti and that he doesn't get sick or whatever?
Yeah, he doesn't get
How many races outside of the top 10 does he need to have before they move him to the IBU Cup? Or will they move him to the IBU Cup?
He would need to have 30 in a row. No, I don't even think they would. I think that they would just say, hey, how about you? Because didn't he do this a couple of years ago? He started out not great, and he just went home.
No, that was Christensen, I thought.
No, I thought,
you're right.
JT,
yeah. Because that's when he just had his, well, I don't know if it was his first child, but when you're talking about Sjusojoen, like I would not want to be Ziggy Marseille.
Oh my God, are you serious? Yeah.
He could put 20 people in that team.
I know. It's unbelievable.
And there would still be people that would feel left out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's just unbelievable. And then, Buchan is back. Hello. Oh yeah, did he win a race or get second or something 2 years ago?
He won. He won his last race. So the last race in Oslo, he won it, and then got sick, and that was it. Yeah. And then he pops up and was 13th in his first race back.
Yeah. I don't know how you can
just for example. So here you go. Here's number 10, JT Bowe. Number 11, Sverre Aspenes. Number 12, Emilien Jacquelin. Number 13, Sivert Bakken. Like, it's not like he's 13th and there's a bunch of nobodies around him.
Boten.
Yes, Boten was in 17th. Yeah.
Dale.
Yeah.
Kasper
Lucas
Koppenberg.
Hofer was in 28th. I mean, it's just, yeah.
It's like, I don't know. No, I'm obviously kidding, but I mean, it's
nuts. No.
I don't know if you can guarantee a spot for someone. Let's say that Bowe would just completely underperform, and I'm not talking 2 or 3 weekends, but like
the entire
up
season
to Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you at some point say, "Sorry, dude, we're going to give somebody else a shot"?
Yeah, I think you do. I think you say, "Hey, plan on taking the next." So Ruhpolding, Oberhof, go home, train, do your thing, come back and see us in Antholz. Maybe, I don't know.
How many weekends can he not race and still win the bib at the end of the year?
I don't know. 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want a serious answer to that
question.
The funny
thing is, though,
he probably could miss one.
You asked the question, and it's not 100% joke, right?
Yeah.
Because it still makes you think, well, he could do it, if he has one of those crazy seasons, and the others are kind of just splitting all the wins.
Well, no, in last season, not even a crazy season, right? I think we would all agree, like, it was not his most dominant season ever. Except, didn't he win like the last 4 or 5 straight races?
Something like that. Like, in Canmore,
like
he was just like on his own planet.
Yeah, he got to Soldier Hollow and just like went, oh no, he had a bad sprint, and then came back from like 13th or something to win the pursuit, and then won that, and then won in Canmore, which just ran away with it.
But didn't he have like a minute head start in the pursuit in Canmore because of his crazy sprint?
Yes.
I'm still looking for the shortcut he took.
Yeah,
when I'm out there, but no,
crazy. It was one of the biggest margin. Maybe it was the biggest margin in a sprint in like
might be
20 years. Yeah, so I think it's him and Bjorn Dahlen who had the biggest margins. But it's sort of an unbelievable level of skill that he has. I went through and I pulled a couple of his sort of his historical markers, kind of where he is and what we think he can accomplish in the next 2 years. So he's got 2 seasons left, and 1 World Championships and 1 Olympics. Just so we know. So he has 85 total wins, which puts him 10 shy of Bjorn Dahlen. Do we think that he can get 5 wins in each of the next 2 seasons to at least tie him?
Possible.
Yeah,
if he's lucky. No.
Yeah. He might do that by by the end of this year.
Yeah. After 5 weekends. Yeah, 5 weekends could be. One race a weekend.
Good. Yeah. He has 128 podiums. He will never catch Bjorn Dahlen, who has 179. I think that's just not possible unless he keeps on racing. I don't think, right? Because at 51, they're not. I guess no. He does not have 51 more races. Okay, so but he could catch Fourcade, who has 150 podiums. So he would need 22 more podiums over the next 2 years.
Doable.
Should be able to get that, right? So he should be able to get into second place. He could even do it this year almost. He could do it this year, yeah. Easily, yeah. Well, not easily, but he could do it this year.
No.
And then
does that include team events?
Does not.
Okay. Yeah, then that would be tight, but
yeah. He could not do it easily this year. He could do it easily by the early part of next season. But he could also do it this year. He has 5 Globes. He has 2 shy of Fourcade, so he'd obviously have to win it this year and next year to tie him.
Mm-hmm.
He has 38 total World Championship medals, so he has 7 shy of Bjorn Dahlen. So he would have to medal in every single event, which he's done the last 2 World Championships. He's 7 solo medals back of Bjorn Dahlen, so he cannot reach him there. He is alone in second place, and he will stay alone in second place regardless of what he does this year.
Right.
He is 1 gold medal back in Worlds of Bjorn Dahlen and Fourcade, who each have 11 solo gold medals. So he could, if he wins 1 or 2, surpass them this year.
They're kind of selfish, hey, those guys, if you think about it.
And then in the Olympics, he has 8 medals. Bjorn Dahlen has 13. So he would need to win 5.
Probably participated in 1 or 2 more.
A few more Olympics, yes. So he would need to win 5 medals at the 2026 Olympics, which would match what he did in Beijing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if by next year the Norwegian relay teams are a shoe-in like they were.
Yeah. I think
anyway, we'll get to that point.
Gold.
Medal. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Just a medal. So anyway, those are all the things. Oh, and then the last one. Currently, he has a 33.5% winning percentage. That's 85 wins in 254 races. Frank Ulrich has the best winning percentage at 34.7%. He had 17 wins in 49 races. So many fewer races we're talking about. I just think that's nuts.
That is crazy.
But think about it. He's won.
And then if you would look at the second, like if you would divide it and look at only the second half, it must be.
I know. Yeah.
Absurd. But, yeah.
Insane. Yeah. I just think it's crazy. He's won 1/3 of his races in his entire career. Like, he won out of every 3 times.
Wow.
That's just sort of a mind-blowing thing that, if he, on average, right, he will win one of these 3 races in Kontiolahti, right?
That's true.
And that is
and
not
if
that would actually
it increases his chances for the next one.
It does. If he only wins one of these 3, it lowers his winning percentage.
Yeah. Maybe it's good that he retires after next year.
What's that?
Maybe it's good that he retires after next year.
Because he's too dominant. Yeah, but I mean, then
well, in a way.
And then Isaac Frey comes up from the.
It's funny, right?
Cup.
Where you see, it's great to see athletes come up to the top and then to actually be able to stay there, because I think every top athlete will tell you that staying at the top is harder than getting there or something.
Yeah.
But then when it takes too long, it kind of gets boring. You see that with Formula One now. It was an exciting season, but it's now 4 years in a row Verstappen wins.
Yeah.
So then it's like, somebody else needs to at least challenge
a little bit.
Which they did mostly for the second half of the season. But it's kind of in everything, right?
Yeah. That's what we need Tarja
for him.
We need Tarja to stick around and keep challenging. No, what we need these young guys to come up, right? We need Eric Perot.
And but I would like to see Tarja one more time at the Olympics.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
I do think, even though he has an incredible amount of credit, I'm sure with the federation, he is going to prove himself. Need to prove himself, right? But I mean, he will always have the advantage of having so much experience at the Olympics that they could still say, "Well, you and Boaten are equal, but we're taking you because you have way more experience." Mm-hmm. I don't know.
He's 36.
Could also argue, you've had your shots, you have your medals. We're gonna give Boaten a chance or whoever. But
so,
hey, I want to do
real quick before you get there. If Boaten doesn't go next year, so Boaten will be 26 at the next Olympics. So if Boaten doesn't go next year, he would be 30 by the time he went to his first Olympics.
Oh, I thought he was younger.
It's weird, isn't it? All these guys, they're not as young as we think. I mean, Isaac Frey is, of course, but these guys are all getting into the middle of their careers and they can't get to the World Cup because the top guys won't go anywhere. Sorry, you were going to say something else.
No, I wanted to do a shout out to Biathlon 23.
Yes.
Because she was super kind in asking both of us for our opinions and posting that on her website.
Yeah, don't read mine,
predictions.
By the way. Yeah.
Huh?
I said don't
but
read
it
mine,
also is a good lead-in because, as we know, if you follow her on Twitter or Instagram, she always points out athletes with bib number 23. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to two teammates, Nate and Chelsea, from Fast and Fossil that I do biathlon with. Gave me an awesome present because they went shopping for ski gear and they found a bib, number 4 bib from Ruhpolding. And like Biathlon 23 does, I thought I'll go back in time and see whose bib that was. And the names were pretty interesting. Baiba Bendica, Coltea, Lujan Monod, Emilien Jacquelin, Sima, Yislava, QFM, Tandrevolt, Samuelson, Smolinski, Strolia, Batavskova, Ponsaloma, Sola, Christensen, Tarja, Bo, Simonator, Kuzmina, and Emma Lunder. So without knowing for sure, I'm going to guess that this was a bib from Emma Lunder, given that it was bought in Camor. And I think that's awesome because it's not hanging right now, but it's ready to be hung. And I think it's super cool to have one of her bibs. But it was just, when you go through that list of who... Because obviously, but that was my first thought, right? It was one of the Canadian athletes. But then, and I went through that list. I'm like, oh, could be that one. Right. So it also made me realize that I'd be happy with anybody's bib. But to have Emma here hanging, and definitely want to ask her if she even knew that it was for sale on a ski gear market. She must, I don't know, she must have a few lying around that have less meaning than others. Mm-hmm. So
I just think that's
I don't know if she donates them or maybe an auction or something.
That's what I was going to say. Is I wonder if it was auctioned off or something. That's pretty neat.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can.
So Nate and Chelsea, thank you again.
Track her down sometime and let her know that it's hanging up in a place of honor.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I need to reach out to her anyway, because I might as well continue on that. So I did an analysis that I basically spread out over the whole summer because finding time is hard these days. Because there was, I don't know if you remember last year, I think the Swedish television had a 4-part show on the Swedish biathlon team the year prior. So they followed the team around and obviously didn't broadcast it right away because went pretty deep into like coach meetings and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's one session where they're sitting on somebody's bed in the hotel room and the coach is sitting in front of them and they're showing these sort of Excel spreadsheets of the sections in a biathlon race, where they analyze it. And then Sebastian says, man, that would be nice to have that information ready after the race when you're still having one or two other races coming up.
Yeah.
So that's over a year ago. That triggered my brain. And it got to the point where I even was talking with or emailing with Scott Gow about, hey, do you have his email address? Because I'd like to send him this dashboard just to see what he thinks. It also led me to reach out to, and I forgot his name, but the coach of the Swedish team when he was in Camor, that if he had a minute, but he kind of brushed me off and said he already has that, so has no need, but that's fine. But I did finish it finally today, and I'm going to send it to Emma Lunder, and we'll put a link in the notes, but it's basically showing ski performances per loop and per sector for any athletes in the last couple of seasons. And it does so per race, both in seconds, but also in percentage behind field average. It shows it in a season overview, so all races in the season to see if there's some trends. And then there's one where you can pick a location. In this case, you would pick Kontiolahti and see how they've done there in the last couple of seasons.
Was there anything that stood out? I don't know how much you've gone into looking at individual.
You know what? I've barely started using it. I did look. Somebody I read somewhere, or maybe that was one of the people that responded to the Biathlon 23.
Yeah,
that said something about Christensen always having very strong ends of the race, but I couldn't really find any particular examples of that. Other than that he has a number of races where his last loop was really strong, but his first and second loop were too. So they didn't necessarily stand out, but that was just like quickly browsing for a minute or two.
Now this is actually going to be really helpful. I'm excited about this. I've got some ideas for how I want to use it.
And I actually haven't looked up Emilien Jacquelin yet.
Yeah. So that was going to be one of the things I was going to look at.
An interesting thing to look at. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah. So this is actually, I was thinking it's going to be helpful because there are many times during the season where I will be watching someone later in the field, which I guess now it might be earlier with the new starting lineups. Right. Anyway, and just trying to guess, trying to think, do I think that they will be able to hold on to like 23rd place or something like that, right? Will they be able to set a new personal best? And so it'll be helpful for me just to quickly be able to see kind of how they do in those the end of the field type things, or into the course, I should say.
Yeah, and I'm still going to try to send it to Sepp Samuelsson anyway.
No, you should. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you tell his coach that, hey, coach, we need this stuff.
We need this guy.
Your Excel spreadsheets are nice, but
this guy's better. Yeah. Nah. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that's how it'll go. Anything else you had on that?
Nope.
There were a bunch of rosters that were announced. I don't want to run through them one by one. Just point out a couple of surprises I thought were interesting. The one I was looking at the most was the Norwegian men, because we were just talking about, there are so many of them that you could make so many arguments for who might be on what level. The Norwegian men's World Cup roster to start the season is exactly the same as it was last year.
No surprises.
Not even one change. I don't know why that makes me laugh. It's just that all this time and thought and considering different things and nothing changes.
Well, it's just because they could make a B team.
Yeah, I know.
That is maybe not quite as good, but is still top 10 worthy.
Oh, well, speaking of the B team, so Mats Overbay won the overall on the IBU Cup last year, and he is not on the IBU Cup roster to start the season. So that is just an example of how you really have to keep. He isn't. He is not. He is not on the IBU Cup roster to start the season.
But he did he try for it?
Yeah.
Or did he just...
He was there, and in Sjusojoen, he was there. He was there racing, and he did not make the team. Like, these guys cannot have one bad weekend, or you can slip down very quickly. But Bakken made the IBU Cup team, so he will be there. That's pretty cool.
So would you say of those 6 that you mentioned, is it the Bow brothers, Christensen and Ligrit, that are more or less secured of their spot, and then Stronsheim and Dale are still at risk?
And then Surum. So because this is interesting, because Uverbe won the IBU Cup, the Norwegian team gets an extra spot, right? And it doesn't necessarily go just to Uverbe, can go to anybody. So I would agree with you that those top 4 are probably locked in. Although we saw last year, right, Christensen got a week off, right? So
yeah, but it was still he didn't necessarily lose his spot. They just decided that he needed a break.
Yeah.
Where with Dale it was that was 2 years, so let's not go into that. But
but that's it, right? So I think that those guys are probably safe. I think Dale is probably. Yeah. I don't know.
Dale has to have a pretty bad start to the season, but how
but patient can you be? Right?
Yeah.
When you have all those guys, and then like on the IBU Cup, you've got Bakken, Boten, Uldal, Isaac Frey. Isaac Frey
does
could be the best of all of them.
Norway have one extra spot for Kontiolahti, or for the whole season?
Kontiolahti and Hokvilsen, and then they lose it for the rest of the season. But what happened with Surum last year was that he accumulated so many points in the first 2 weeks that he qualified for the mass starts for the rest of the season. Does that make sense?
Like on the IBU Cup, or
no, he qualified for the World Cup mass starts. Like, he had so many points that he was high enough up in the overall rankings that he continued to qualify for the mass start. So right, so he raced the mass start, in Lenzerheide, even though he didn't race the sprint or the pursuit because he had enough points. Right. And then he again had a good enough finish that he qualified for the mass start in Antholz. So he returned it, right? So he just kept showing up at these mass start events until the end of the season when they expanded the roster again and he was back. Yeah, it's just
crazy.
It is. Yeah. It's just, what do you do with that? I don't know. The Frenchman, that came out funny. The French men's team did something interesting. They only filled 4 of their 6 spots to start in Kontiolahti. So that is Fabien Claude, and then Jacqueline, QFM, Perot, and then the 5th and 6th spots are going to be filled after the first weekend of the IBU Cup. So presumably they'll race the first weekend of the IBU Cup and then come up for the individual races, the short individual, which will start on Tuesday.
Where are the IBU Cup races? Do you know?
In Sweden. So Idre Fjaell. Okay. So shouldn't be too long of a transfer.
Right.
No major surprises there for the women. The German women I thought was interesting. They went very youth heavy. I don't know if you saw their roster.
Well, it's funny because in that request from Biathlon 23 for a preview, I noticed, or I mentioned that I was curious to see what Rietmüller was going to do and who he was basically going to bump off the team, because I think the rest of the team are actually pretty even. Like, there's nobody really standing out. And so he did. Roman Reis was the guy bumped off the team for Rietmüller.
Yeah. Well, and just look at last year. I mean, Kuhn, Dole, Strello, and Navrath were 12, 13, 14, 15 in the overall rankings. Mm-hmm. And Reis, he got bumped.
So who do you consider the best? Like, maybe not the best German, but more, who do you think will end up highest on the German team at the end of the season?
Oh, I gotta go Strello. He's our guy. And I mean that genuinely too. I do think that he'll be the best. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Rietmüller will?
No, I don't know. I have a feeling with Philip Horn.
Oh,
that he's going to do really well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know.
No, I think that he has done a really good job because he's had to fight for his spot, and then when he earned it last year,
kidding.
he just he did not give it back.
Yeah,
I could see it with Horn.
But yeah, Strelo is he has so much potential with his shooting.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to get that much faster to really be top 10 on a very consistent basis. And then the women,
the women were interesting.
Yeah, right, because they went Preutz and Vogt, which was expected, and then they went everybody else is under 25, right? Groschen, King, Puff, and Tonheimer.
Yeah, I'm looking at birth years here, but I have a bit of a different list from another website. But so Kabinger not on, right?
She is IBU Cup to start.
Right.
I think she will come up, but she's not there to start.
Right. Yeah, man, it's just, I feel there's a number of athletes, higher, well-known athletes, that are really going to have another year of, let's say Preutz will have another injury / sickness season. How long are you going to be well, maybe this next year will be the year?
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I would love for her to have a full season and then see how well she can do. And I think she can do really well. But it's just, I kind of feel the same with Jacqueline.
Yeah.
It's how many seasons are you still going to be well, he has the potential to win. Maybe this is the year. If there's not really a big push from younger athletes, but I mean, in France, there is always younger athletes coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an excellent question. I think Preutz, it just seems to be that it's one thing after another. I mean, she's always sick or hurt. The problem is that when she's there, she is. Last year she was. She was one of the best. She
wasn't she challenging for the lead in the until she got sick.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with her.
I'm really curious to see how Vogt is doing, because it sounds like she had a pretty rough summer mentally, and I think enough has been said about all the things she had to deal with.
I think it's hard,
social media, etc.
To be a German athlete, right? I mean, because there's so much pressure. I think I'm not going to say I'd rather race for the Canadian team, because there are obviously a lot of challenges with that. I just think that there's less pressure. I think the fans
can be
really,
right? Yeah.
really difficult. Yeah.
In a way, you almost think that it might not have been good for her that she won the IBU Cup a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yes. Whereas she came to the World Cup and immediately looked amazing. Yeah. Well, then you've got, and people talking about Selena Groschen as the next, Neuner, or I think that was who they, or Dahlmeier, I can't remember who they compared her to.
It's too late already.
Oh, I know.
They were 12 when they started winning World Cups. So.
But that's what they were talking about when she made her debut, and it's just this crazy, let them be themselves.
But that's how it goes in
that's
sport.
What fans, I know that's what we do. Yeah. So they went all youth. Let's see. Was there anybody else?
I'm still confused about this whole Italian setup. Doro doing her own thing. Hofer, I think, is doing his own thing with different teams, and then you only have two men on the elite team with Giacomel and Bionat, and then Hofer, and then it's only Doro and Lisa Vitozzi that are in the elite women's team.
Yeah,
but then you have the Milano team,
which is gigantic,
with Satolo, Trabucci, Zingerli, Augenthaler, another Trabucci, Passler, Comola, Carrara. Yeah. But I would assume that Lisa Vitozzi is also part of the Milano team. Maybe Veer is a bit more of a question because of her age, but
I don't know.
I'm sure they fully understand what's happening, but it's
I think that's exactly. I'm sure,
and it probably has a lot to do with funding.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is something there that is more clear to them on the outside, it just looks like it's.
I actually think it's probably funding, because if you're on the Olympic team, you get funding from the Olympic Committee, whatever.
You're probably right. I think they went with Augenthaler, Komola, Passler, and Carrara. I think got the first crack at the World Cup spot with Vitozzi and Vera. And I don't think that they're filling Vitozzi's spot while she's injured either. I think they're just leaving it at 5.
Why would you not? Unless you feel that nobody's good enough, but it's, I don't know, short individuals.
I think you would give somebody a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think no other major surprises. I like on the Finnish team. Inka Heimalainen is a young woman who made the World Cup team, and she's definitely still would qualify as a junior, but she looked very good this summer. I had no expectations for her, but just exciting. So if you're looking for a young person who's on an off the radar team, I would say Inka Heimalainen. She could be fun to watch. And then we have the American and the Canadian rosters. And I'm going to run through the American roster first, and then I want to have a little bit longer conversation about the Canadian.
I just want to, since we like butchering people's last names, on the Polish team, there's a guy called Konrad, and then his last name is Badacz.
Yeah.
Which I would pronounce as badass.
Yeah.
Badass, But
awesome.
That's a pretty awesome name. Sorry.
Yeah. Isn't he still? He's like 24. He's a young guy.
He's younger than that. He's from 2003. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. So they've got a couple of young guys on their team.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about the Polish.
And I was happy to see that Lampic is on there, because I didn't see anything about her. So I was like, I hope she's not giving up.
Oh, I didn't mention this. So, what she was running. Who else was at these races? She shot 9 for 10 like in a test race in one of the selection races. I don't remember who else was at this race, but she she won it. Yeah, and then in the pursuit she went like 11 for 20, but it doesn't matter. So it was interesting to see. Yeah. So the I don't think the Poles have named their team yet, but I assume it's going to be all the main women that we've talked about.
I found what I found on what was it, Snow Online or something? Never heard of their site, but they had a whole list of team announcements. So Zuk, Jakiela, Maka, Zadorovic, Gembika, and Kishon, which I pronounce French. Well, not even French probably, but wrong. I pronounce it wrong, but Kishon.
For the Polish team?
That's the name I have for the women's team, yeah.
Okay.
And the source is written as Polish Biathlon Association. So, and
I see it now.
I'm naming a source.
Okay. I gotcha.
Snow-online.com is where I found it.
Yes, I see it. So the Americans. No major surprises with their men's team, going with Campbell Wright, Maxime Germain, Jake Brown, Sean Doherty. I remain very optimistic about that team. I think that that's a solid group. That could
you say no surprises. What's going on with Paul Schomer?
Oh, his knee has not been the same since he hurt it a couple years ago, and I think that he has worked very, very hard to rehab it. So releasing right now, there are two podcasts that are coming out, and in Campbell Wright's interview, you will hear him mention Paul Schomer very briefly, and mentions him working on his knee. So I don't think it's come back in quite the same way.
But is he officially still on the?
He's still on the roster.
Team,
he's still trying. Yeah, still trying to get there.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway, very high on that team. I think that they could maybe, this is one of my big predictions, be top 10 in the Nations Cup this year. So do it, guys. You can do it.
I think
that requires Campbell Wright to have recovered from his his illness in Finland and
right.
have the kind of season he had in the last trimester of last year to pick up a lot of those points. But I think Jermaine can do it as well, and I think they can make some points up in the relays. On the women's side, Deidre Irwin, no surprise there. Kelsey Dickinson's been around for a little while. And then we get to Grace Cassengue and Margie Freed, who is a cross-country to biathlon convert from last year. Yeah. And she definitely has ski speed. She started to shoot better last year, and I'm very excited to see what she can do. Yep. So then
I was sad to see that
Tara Garrity-Motes.
That she didn't make the World Cup team.
Also, Chloe Levins, who was on the World Cup team for a lot of last year, is not on either the World Cup or the IBU Cup. So that was sad to see as well. So then we have the Canadian team. And I wanted to spend some time on this, and I know we're over an hour into the podcast already. This is going to be a long one. I don't know what's going on the Canadian team. I tried to make sense of their roster construct here, but so the names fine. Like, I have no problem with the names. Like, for the women, Emma Lunder, Nadia Moser, Pascal Paradis, Shiloh Russo, and then for the men, Adam Reynolds, Logan Pletz, Haldon Borglum, and Daniel Gilliflin.
Don't forget Benita Pfeiffer on the women's.
Is on the IBU Cup, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
So this is why, because they have a group list as World Cup, and then underneath it they have a group list as IBU Cup. That for the women, it says Pascal Paradis, Shiloh Russo, who were also on the World Cup, and the Benita Pfeiffer and Emily Dixon. So what does that mean? Does that mean that those women are not going to race on the World Cup? That they're going to race on the IBU Cup? I don't.
Well, so, and I'm not 100% clear on this either, but I think one point is that to race on the World Cup, you have to have a certain amount of IBU Cup points or results to qualify. Yeah. You can't just send somebody over, right? And if I remember correctly from talking to Logan Pletz in our interview with him, he is currently not allowed to start on the World Cup, if I remember correctly. Like, he needs to have some results on the IBU Cup first.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's the same for a number of the women. And I'm just guessing here, but I also wonder if some of it is just has to do with budget.
Yeah. Which makes me sad. Like, if that's the case,
like you were saying, sorry?
If that's the case, it makes me sad. That's all I was going to say.
No, it is sad, but I mean, like last year with the guy you mentioned earlier, the guy that was allowed to do the mass start, like how Norway was basically flying him back and forth from IBU Cup to World Cup and stuff. Yeah. Like, that's just not an option. And I think one of the main differences for a team like Canada is you basically have to say, okay, these are the people we're going to Europe with, and they just don't have the budget to be like, oh, let's fly two back and let's fly two over from the IBU Cup, or I don't think they have that luxury. So I think definitely that plays a role.
Yeah.
And
that's just hard.
I don't know. It's hard to say. The qualifications are always a bit weird because there's sometimes some results where people that you wouldn't expect do really, really well, but still don't get selected because of previous experience, etc. Yeah. So I think they try really hard to make it a black and white exercise, but it's just not realistic in some cases. But I don't think it's very clear in the Canadian biathlon community overall what's exactly happening with the national team. But I'm not into it enough to know if that's just because nobody's really asking, or if it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you saw, it always makes me sad when I see on Instagram that Team Canada is asking for donations for the team.
I saw that.
And then I think
they've given
either the government or somebody will be matching it. But it's just, for such a wealthy nation, I know it doesn't work this way, but if every top NHL player would, throw in $10,000, they wouldn't notice. Because let's be honest, if you make like $5 million a year, and I know there's a lot of reasons for it, or a lot of groups they can donate money to. So I get it. Like, I know why they don't do it, but it's so frustrating sometimes where even if they would like if a Canadian hockey player from the NHL would pitch in $1,000, that they'd be having the time of their life and actually, I'm really, really concerned about we know that one of the goals of the IBU, we were just talking about it before the podcast, for, their 2030 plan is to increase the competition level or competitiveness of more nations and more people. And it's like a country like Canada, like, let's say you love the sport, but you already know you're going to be scrambling for money every year. And I don't know, it's funny, right? Because on the Norwegian side, it's also not a great position to be in, that you could literally challenge for a top 10 in the World Cup and you might not be on the team. You might not even make the IBU Cup. So that sucks too. But it just,
you need to find a nice happy medium like Austria.
No, but we've talked about it before. You just need to marry with the right people.
Yes.
But no, but it does make me appreciate in a way the Canadian athletes and the Americans and people from nations where it's just always a struggle to get the finances to still motivate and be like, I'm going to go through this again. And, no, we don't have a $1 million wax truck.
Yeah.
And, we're probably, even when the skis are tip top and the wax techs have an awesome job or an awesome day, you still know that, the 20 people in the Norwegian wax truck are probably going to outperform you. And that's not by lack of effort, but it's, a big part is budget. And sure, there's also expertise and stuff, but I don't know. It's frustrating.
It is. Yeah.
Because there must be enough potential and talent in Canada. Come on. There's like,
oh yeah,
we got a foot of snow already. Like,
people can grow up with skis on their feet
in the park. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the hard things, I think, is that Canada and the United States, obviously very prosperous nations. Like, money should not be a problem. But it is, because it's sort of a superfluous thing, I guess. And how do you argue that we should put more money into this silly sport as opposed to putting it into education and health and human services? And I have no argument for that, except that if it gets people to be more active, then that's good, right? That's a good thing. And anyway, it makes me sad. I know it's selfish because I love the sport, and I wish that finances didn't have to factor in like this. I wish that there was just some, wealthy Middle Eastern oil billionaire who just, no, I'm just kidding. I do not wish that at all.
Well, there should be some connections to be made in Alberta but no, I know what you're saying. It's just, but then it's also like, what do you put the money in? Because you could also argue you should put a lot of money in advertising. Because, I mean, come on, like Camor March last year, this year. I mean, you couldn't have a better advertisement for biathlon in Canada,
right? Yeah,
than that. And I don't even recall the CBC being there, the national broadcasting company.
I would imagine that,
like it.
Obviously,
how do you ever get the sport up if?
There wasn't Soldier Hollow, but I don't think you saw NBC or ABC or CBS out there, put it on the nightly news. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. ESPN wasn't out there, putting it up to get highlights for it,
No.
Just sort of happened and nobody noticed it.
Yep.
Well, that was sad. Let's not talk about that anymore.
You were asking.
Long story short, and I was asking because I have thought about this many times over the last couple of weeks. Because I remember I even posted something because even the announcement of the results of the trials was so difficult to read through that I misread it the first time. Remember this? So I put it up on Twitter, and I was like, I think you posted the wrong thing. And I was like, no, actually, it was just.
Well, I was confused too. Then somebody in my team explained it.
Yeah. And it just. I get it. I know what they were trying to do. It was not very clear. I wish that, and this is like a little thing, but just make that easier to read. Just make the results easier to understand. It was.
But that's another
thing. It was like a memo that somebody published, and it's like all you needed to do was break this down.
But these are probably all volunteers too.
I know, but
that's the thing with budget, right? And that's so hard because it's incredible. Some individuals in the biathlon community in Canada, how much time they put in the sport.
Oh, I know.
Without any, mentioning of their names or financial rewards, and every year they do it. And then when you see something like that, come on, how hard can it be? But then I'm thinking, well, maybe that's somebody who came home after work, dealt with their kids, and then before bed is like, okay, got to put this up. I'm just going to dump it and go to bed. It's...
Yeah, I get it. No,
I don't know if that's the case, but I'm trying to see it from that perspective. It's... People do the best they can. But
that is a much nicer way of... Yeah, that's the Canadian way of thinking about it, and I'm coming at it from the American perspective of like, damn it, just work harder.
I thought I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder here. There was somebody asking on, I think Instagram, whatever, like what's the main difference, Threads, the main difference between Canadians and Americans. And then it was a whole list of Americans replying, and I responded, sorry for my delayed response. I'm just waiting for the Americans to put in their thing first.
That's quite funny.
And that was the diplomatic version of what I was originally thinking, but
no, maybe I should volunteer my time then.
There you go.
All right, I have some questions for you, and then we'll let this go because it's an hour and 17 minutes on the clock right now. So real quick, and we sort of got into these a little bit with Biathlon 23. Did you have any changes that you wanted to make to your predictions for maybe like your potential top 5 in the overall?
No.
Yeah.
JT Bow is going to be tough to beat, and it's the only thing I'm curious about is it going to be a bunch of Norwegians, or is it going to be one Norwegian who kind of goes in between all the other Norwegians and Bo, and it could be Tarjei, it could be. I think.
I know what you mean.
Holmlegreid, or still Holmlegreid has, I think, the best potential.
Yeah.
To do it, but I'm looking forward to see. I'm really curious to see Poirot.
Yes.
If he's gonna. Continue his like, I would not be shocked if he's going to be the best Frenchman at the end of the season, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he has a horrible season after, doing so well.
Well,
so that's really a very diplomatic way to say. I have no idea.
Isn't always linear, Sometimes there's what looks to be a setback, and it's just a step on the road.
Yeah, and I mean, Emilien Jacquelin is. I'm one of those millions of other people that are like, I really hope this is the year that he can pull it together. Samuelson, I don't know.
Can he do it?
I'm starting to.
He's got a son. He's got a kid. Maybe that's what he
that's a trick.
Oh. Yeah. Who do you think? So this is a good question. Who do you think is going to be the top non-Norwegian? Last year was Jacquelin in 6th, and then Stromstein was in 7th, and then Jacquemel was 8th. Ponceloma, there's another one. Strello, Villon-Maillet.
I think I would go with no. I'm in my head. I'm like Poirot, Hartweg, or Jacquemel.
Yeah,
and I think I would pick Hartweg if I wasn't concerned about his health.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it goes for everybody. Like if they're not healthy, they're not gonna. But
man, 2 years ago he was so good though.
What would be the highest rank of the first non-Norwegian? Top 5?
I think 5th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one of those top 3 or those top 5 just gets knocked down one spot, so a non-Norwegian can get in there. But that's, I mean, it's kind of silly. What about on the women's side? Any clarity there? I don't know how you try to make a definitive statement about any of them.
It's always the one thing when I give a prediction, like the hour after, I'm kind of, if you ask me again, I might be slightly different. They're definitely not a clear favorite. I think for the competition, it's interesting that Vitozzi is going to miss the start. I'm obviously really excited to see what Anna Gantler is going to be able to do, if she's going to be able to compete.
Yes, yeah.
If I had to pick somebody now, I would probably go with, well,
there's a correct
probably
answer.
3 French ladies, but I would say Lou Jean-Monod.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably who
but I must say, like, Tandrevold, I don't know. I really hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see her have another.
You're wrong.
Really,
I'm just telling you now.
I mean,
you're wrong.
Last year I said I wasn't really interested in, or like I didn't really see her go for it because I didn't see her as a winner of a globe, and I still feel like this may be the closest she'll ever be. But I don't know. I really hope I'm wrong because she would deserve it, and I would.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to feel that way, that she's not maybe a person who's going to win the overall until the moment that she's holding the overall. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but I'm saying, like, she's not that old, right?
No, fair enough. But
she is 28,
especially the way she lost it.
Yeah,
like she really lost it. Like all kudos to Jean-Monod and Lisa Vitozzi,
but no, Tangible
for the performances they put up in the end. But I mean, it was hers to keep or lose.
Yeah, because it was like, I think it was Soldier Hollow. She did very well in the sprint, and it was like, well, that could be it. But nope. But
maybe that's a moment where she got a lot stronger mentally for this season.
Yeah. Any breakthroughs? You mentioned Anna Gondler. I don't know if we'd call her a breakthrough, because I think that was last year for her.
No, I wouldn't call her a breakthrough anymore.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that Finnish guy, Otto Vinius or Invinius. I still have my hopes for Lampich. I don't know.
It'll happen. Not
that she's going to win the World Cup, but I would love to see her have a win or two. I think that would be pretty amazing. And I am totally on board with you on Team USA men's. They're going to have to, to be in the mix, everything has to go right on the right day. Yes. But I think they definitely can do that, like they've shown last year.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely.
I think if we can call Campbell Wright a breakthrough, I don't think that we can anymore. But I have to say his name one more time.
But I will also. I don't know if you remember 2 years ago we were in Kontiolahti, and Emma Lunder started the individual in 20th, but then had a 4th and a 5th.
Yes. Yeah.
I think she's going to get another bunch of flowers.
That would be excellent. I would love to see that.
This upcoming weekend.
I would love to see that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. What about Nadia Moser? I like her a lot. And I've been talking about Pascal Parity for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So I think
she was better than Lunder last year, Nadia Moser, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm saying that Lunder's going to get flowers, but I do think that Lunder has her advantage with the experience, right?
I think so. Yep. I agree.
But that said, I think it's so awesome that she's staying on the team just for that, to be able to share that with, the rest of the team that are not new, but
I'm hopeful that she stays through the Olympics, just because I want to see her again. But I meant to mention this. Regina Emirates, do you think that she can have a strong season? She closed the year
whole
really
team
well,
pretty darn strong. So
yeah, she closed the year really well. And remember, she talked about how it's like first trimester she had that thing, and then second trimester she was sick, and it felt like she couldn't quite get the ball rolling. But once she did, once she was healthy,
I think a lot has if the whole team does well in the first couple of races, then it just gives you a boost overall.
I agree. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So. Same with the Polish team. If they start off really well, then who knows what they can do.
I was just about to say that. You remember? I think that if they because I think they came out right out of the gate and had a good race, and it sort of set the tone for the season. And it seemed like everything they did for the rest of the year was building off of that. Right. Hannah Ackenthaler, I feel like she's going to establish herself as the third Italian. So I think you'll have. I don't think that she's going to be, pushing for the top 10 of the overall or anything, but I think that she's going to separate from that other group. I think that's one of my. Yeah. Any out of nowhere?
Yeah, they have an interesting group of youngers. Hey,
any out of nowheres? Any out of just like some people that nobody's looking at that you're thinking about?
No, I can't say anybody comes to mind, but I
think there's some juniors.
Baiba is gonna have her day at least once, if not more than once.
I think more than once.
With the speed that she can do. Yeah. And she has it in her to shoot clean or just limit herself to maybe one miss, and then she's in the mix.
Oh, forgot to mention Anna Karin Heidenberg, Swedish woman. She started out IBU Cup last year, had some good finishes, pushed her way to the World Cup at the very end of the season. She's fast. Maybe not the best shooter in the world, but I think that she'll have her days. Sort of like Baiba. Actually, she'll look a lot like Baiba. I think she will have those days where she looks very, very good. So expect to see her up there. Yeah. I appreciate those stories where people they really earn it, right? They fight and earn it and push themselves up, and you can watch that progress happening.
I'm going to say I'm looking forward to having a season with outfits that are distinguishable from what I've seen so far.
Yes, I agree.
There was one last thing sort of related to biathlon. So I don't know if you remember years ago, I made this board game Scoot.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah,
it's on my website, and it's funny. Yeah. So every year or 6 months or so, I get this email out of the blue. So I recently got an email from a guy in France who was like, "Can you make the World Cup track for Lenzerheide so I can?" do the races there to follow the season. And I think it's just so hilarious that there's people not all over the world, but like in completely different places on the world that are playing that game. Because I had another one a year back who was like, and I redid the season 3 times already with my kids, and it's just hilarious. I just find that's just awesome, because I did put a lot of time in it, and not with any expectation, but the fact that people are actually using and enjoying it.
It's fun.
I don't know. Makes me smile. So
no, I love it. That's what we're here for. Smiles.
One more race that you need to talk about after the next weekend.
Yes.
Because on Saturday.
Yes.
The one and only me.
Yeah.
Is racing a short individual.
Gosh. Okay.
I mean, the weather needs to be perfect, because otherwise I'm not going. So I have 1 week to turn into somebody who's actually in shape.
All right.
And then I picked the individual. Well, I picked the individual because it was on the day that other people on the team are going to be there. So hopefully somebody's kind enough to help me zeroing and yell at me on the course every now and then. But the individual is nice because you can miss all targets and you don't have to do any extra loops.
Well, are you gonna be racing on the same track that they raced on in March?
I don't know exactly what the loop is, but it will be partially the same. Yeah.
I was to say we need to we need to make a animation
it's a bit shorter.
An animation of you doing it versus
let's not do that.
JT Bow. I think it'd be great.
No, come on.
Yeah.
Are you trying to motivate me here?
I am. Yeah, just imagine him in front of you. You're trying to So you're trying to beat
I'll be
him.
on the top of the first hill, and then it's like JT Bow already passing.
Coming
I don't
for a
even
second
know how
lap.
long the distance is. But yeah, we'll see.
I'm excited.
I'm sure
I'm
I'll
excited to
forget
hear about
my
it.
ammunition or something. Who knows? Something stupid.
No. I'm excited to hear about it.
I'll have fun.
All right, hour and a half. We're going to call it.
Okay.
I am 100% positive that we forgot that there were things I wanted to talk about that we forgot, and I will remember them. So maybe you'll hear from us again on Wednesday, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, man.
Enjoy the races.
Thanks for listening.
We'll talk to you next week.